Today I will be presenting our study on public perception of the impact of petrol prices on property prices in Malaysia. Okay, the property market and fuel prices are two important factors that contribute to Malaysia's economy. Petrol prices affect many aspects of daily life, especially transportation and the cost of goods and services. When petrol prices increase, the transportation costs also rise. This can lead to higher prices for construction materials and increased development costs for housing projects. As a result, property prices may also increase, making it more difficult for some people to afford a home. However, not everyone has the same opinion about this relationship. Public perception may differ depending on factors such as income level, whether a person owns a property, and their personal economic experience. Some people believe petrol prices have a strong influence on property prices, while others believe other factors have a greater impact. Okay, so that's all from me.
So, what are the purposes of this study? The purpose of this study is to study the relationship between the impact of fuel price and property prices in Malaysia. As already said, fuel price in Malaysia seem to have increased lately, and most of the value in the market will also increase due to shipping costs in Malaysia. A fuel increase will affect people's daily life, such as going to the workplace, travelling and shipping, which will be limited due to rising fuel price. According to these factors, most of the people who live in Malaysia often buy a house that is near their workplace. This will show the rising fuel price will also affect property prices. Furthermore, people choose to live near their workplace to save a lot of time and have more accessibility. But not to forget, rising fuel price can also influence properties that have a lot of accessibility, especially for residents in a city. Many people who demand a house will increase the value of property because of the scarcity of land. In a city, people who work in a city will be desperate to find a close house. Therefore, these studies aim to determine the public perception of rising fuel price. Through this, we can know how people want to manage their future and choosing a living place and workplace. Also, by fulfilling this objective, the study will provide useful information on how rising fuel price will influence people's daily life. Thank you.
Hello everyone, in this session I will explain the research methodology used in our study. This study adopted a quantitative research designed to examine the impact of petrol price change on the property market and daily life in Malaysia. We chose a quantitative approach because it allows us to collect data from a large number of respondents and analyze the result using statistical method. So this helps us identify pattern, opinion and relationship related to petrol price change. For data collection, we use primary data through a structured questionnaire. The questionnaire includes questions about respondent demographic information, their perception of petrol price change, the impact of fuel costs on daily expenses, and their opinion on how petrol price fluctuation affect property price and housing preference in Malaysia. We use a convenient sampling method. This means the questionnaire was distributed to respondents who were easily accessible and willing to participate in the study. This method allows us to collect data quickly and efficiently from members of the public with different demographic background in Malaysia. After collecting the responses, we analyze the data using descriptive statistics including frequency, percentage, mean, median and mode. So this statistical method helps us summarize the responses and identify trends in public perception. So in conclusion, the research design was suitable for achieving our study objective because it provides useful data on public perception on the impact of petrol price change on the property market and daily life in Malaysia. So thank you.
Today we are going to talk about analysis and interpretation. And for the section A, first based on the gender distribution, 51% of respondents are male and 49% are female, showing that the number of male and female respondents is almost balanced. For marital status, 50% of respondents are married, while 44% are single. This shows that married respondents slightly represent the majority. In terms of age group, The largest group in respondent aged 18 to 25 years old with 31%. The other age groups are distributed between 26 to 30 years old, 34 to 41 years old, 42 to 49 years old, and 50-year-olds and above. For race and citizenship, the majority of the respondents are Malay with 94.9%, followed by Chinese, Indian, and other races. All respondents are Malaysian citizens, representing 100% of the survey. Regarding education level, respondents have a diploma qualification at 36.4%, followed by a bachelor degrees at 34.3%. Other education level include SPM, master degrees, and PhD. For employment status, the majority of the respondents are working individuals, making up 64%, while 29% are students and 7% are unemployed. Based on income level, most respondents earn below RM2,000 per month, with 40 respondents. Other income groups include 2,001 ringgit to 4,000, 4,001 ringgit to 6,000, and above 6,000. Lastly, for daily transportation, 54% of respondents use cars, 26% use both cars and motorcycles, and 20% use motorcycle only.
Lastly, let's look at section C, which talk about the behavioral intentions. We wanted to see if high petrol prices are actually changing how people decide to buy a home. Here is what we found from our analysis. The first analysis is location is key. Our data shows the most people are now prioritizing houses near their workplace to cut down on petrol costs. It's no longer just a preference, it's actually a financial necessity for them. The second analysis is smart trade-off. Buyers are actually willing to accept a smaller house size if the locations is strategic enough to save them money on travel. This shows that fuel costs are a major filter in their decision making. The last one is adapting, not quitting. Even though fuel costs are high, our finding shows that people aren't giving up on buying a house. They are really just being smarter by choosing areas with better public transport to say resilience. So, in short, petrol prices are definitely changing the game. Buyers are shifting away from remote area and are now much more focused on the locations that are convenient and accessible to them. That's all from me. Thank you. So let's moving on to the section B, where I talk about perceptions on fuel price influence on housing decisions. So based on our findings, the three highest mean scores were recorded for P1. P1 is for perception 1 is 3.13, P8 is 3.10, and P4 is 2.88. So this result shows that respondents are highly concerned about fuel costs and strongly agree that buying a property near their workplace is an effective strategy to manage their daily living expenses. So next, the lowest scores were for P5, which is 1.77, and P6, 1.79. This indicates that respondents do not strongly link rising fuel price to construction costs or broader property market changes. So in conclusion, respondents prioritize immediate personal financial impact over microeconomic factors when making their housing decisions. So let's talk about the finding for section C. So next, we move to the section C, behavioral intentions regarding housing. So the key findings is our data shows the highest mean scores for B3, which is 3.26, and B1 is 3.06, and B2 is for 2.94. So next, we move to the section C, which is talk about the behavioral intention regarding housing. So the key findings is our data shows the highest mean scores for B3, which is 3.26, and B1 is for 3.06, and B2 is for 2.94. So this result highlight that respondents are consciously avoiding properties far from the city and actively prioritizing locations near their workplace to rising fuel expenses. So the lowest scores for this section is for B8, which is 2.07, and B7 is for 2.29. So this tells us that while fuel price strongly influence the locations of a home, they are not necessarily causing respondents to cancel their plans to purchase a home. Next, I will explain the limitations of our study. Our study has several limitations that may affect the findings. First, because we use an online questionnaire, we could not monitor how respondents may not have read every question carefully, so their answer might not fully reflect their actual opinions. The second limitation is the response rate. Although the questionnaire was shared online, not everyone complete the survey, so this limit the amount of data collected for our study. Another limitation is that the survey was conducted in online. This means only people with internet access and basic digital skills could participate. Overall, despite these limitations, our study still provides useful information about public perception of the impact of petrol prices on property price in Malaysia. So in the future, a larger sample size and a combination of online and face-to-face survey could improve the quality of the research. That's all for me, thank you.
Now, moving on to the conclusion of our study. We have successfully analyzed primary data from 100 individuals made out of male and female respondents. Crucially, while 64% of our participants are actively employed, 40% of them falls into a monthly income bracket below 2,000, and more than half of them rely on cars for their daily commute. This baseline is vital because it highlights a demographic that is exceptionally sensitive to economic shift and daily transportation costs. When we look closely at Section B regarding public perception, the data reveal a strong consensus on market behavior. The highest mean score in this section, 3.13, shows a strong public perception that manufacturing companies are quickly to raise price during a fuel high, but they are highly reluctant to lower the price when the oil price drops. Additionally, a mean score of 3.1 shows a clear understanding that buying a residential property closer to one's workplace is highly beneficial in the long run to counter volatile oil prices. This perception translates directly into real-world action in Section C, which covers consumer behavior. The data proves that fuel price directly dictate housing decision. In fact, the single highest mean score in our entire study, 3.26, firmly demonstrate that the Malaysian actively avoid purchasing properties far from the city due to the blooming fuel costs. This is further reinforced by a mean score of 3.06, proving that buyers heavily prioritize living near their workspace to keep transportation costs manageable. Our statistical analysis proved that the petrol price fluctuation are not something controllable. They heavily shape the public economic outlook and indirectly drive housing market demand towards urban centers, strategic proximity, and transit-oriented development. Thank you.